Welcome back to House Guest with me, Hailey Fennel. I'm a psychic medium, and this is the podcast that connects you to the other side. Today, I am sitting here right after recording my 100th episode with Lindsay. If you haven't listened to that, make sure you go back and listen because I got to have the best conversation with Lindsay Collins. Thank you, Lindsay, for coming on. She is my producer, and she is the very first person that I gave a reading to for the podcast. You guys are going to love it. So go back to episode 1 as well. Listen to her reading and then go to episode 100. And now officially welcome to episode 101. And we're going to do a little psychic mediumship 101 with you guys. I'm going to go through a few of the things that I always say in readings, or some of the things that I find myself saying in readings, just to help you guys connect in deeper. There's something about the podcast where I started off thinking that I was doing these two things. One was just showing people what readings would be like with me so that they would be more comfortable booking with me. And then the other thing was kind of debunking the idea of hauntings or that spirits were scary. All of that is still true. But then there's this other thing that has happened since starting the podcast, which is a lot of people reaching out to me saying, hey, what are your resources, or how do you do what it is that you're doing? Not necessarily to do it themselves, though some of them are doing it for themselves, which is perfect. I have lots of resources for that as well. But a lot of people just doing it because they want to, in general, feel more connected to themselves, their own soul, their guides, their people on the other side. So this episode, we're going to touch on a little bit of it. And what's going to happen is you guys are going to have a lot of more questions around it afterwards. So DM me or email me at Hailey@HaileyFennel.com or on Instagram at HaileyLowFennel, and we'll do another one in a few episodes. And you guys, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. But for now, what I'm going to take you through is how I connect in the first place. So you guys have heard it on the podcast before. You heard it in Lindsay's episode, where what I used to do is have you guys imagine a bridge, and it would go something like this. And you guys are welcome to do it with me. I'd have you take a few deep breaths and just close your eyes. And what you're going to do is imagine a bridge, a really strong, sturdy, stable bridge. And it's connecting the two of us. And instead of walking across that bridge, what you're going to do is just imagine the bridge getting shorter and shorter, and we're becoming closer and closer. And then you're going to take a few more deep breaths. And that's how I used to start off all of the episodes. And what you're going to do for yourself instead is, instead of imagining something between me and you, you're going to imagine something between yourself and the person you want to connect in with from the other side. You could even pick your own soul. You could even pick a guide that you don't know from this lifetime, and you can just kind of imagine a really bright yellow or white ball as your guide if you can't imagine a person. And you're just going to start to imagine that there's a bridge between the two of you, and it's just getting shorter and shorter, and you guys are becoming closer and closer. And your only goal right now is to just feel that presence. You might feel it kind of hover in and around your body. You might even just be simply aware of it in some way, and that's connection right there. So you're just going to learn how to trust that there's something there beyond what you are currently seeing. And I hope that feels helpful. And then later in more recent episodes, you guys have heard me say, imagine a field. And I'll say something like this. I'll have my sitter, who is the person that I'm giving a reading to, close their eyes, or they can leave them open. That's kind of a new thing in my mediumship. It's really about what you're the most comfortable with. So if you're practicing this with someone else and they're your client, it's more about making them comfortable than it is about them having to have their eyes closed. Most people do close their eyes. They're pretty comfortable. But you'll close your eyes for yourself or with your sitter, and you will start to imagine a field. And if you're with someone else, you can both be in that field together, or if it's just you, then you're just in a field and it's really bright and warm and sunny, because that feels good. And you're just going to start to imagine a connection with your own soul, or that your soul and your sitter's souls are starting to connect in. And then you're going to start to imagine that your guides are there as well. And then you're going to start to imagine that anybody and everybody that you know from the other side is there in the field as well. And what's going to happen is, as you take a few more deep breaths, you're going to start to feel those people from the other side enter the room with you. And you might say something like, you might even feel them enter the room with you. You might feel them come quite close. You might even feel them become one with you, or even just an awareness is fine. And from that point, you're just going to start trusting that you're feeling them for yourself or you're feeling them for the person that you're sitting with. And the whole goal is to trust that what's coming in that moment is for yourself, as long as it's good, calm, and neutral. So if you start to feel like any of the messages that you are getting are fearful, you're just going to very gently give yourself a permission to say, hey, that's just my ego. And ego, I need you to step to the side right now. I'm trying to connect in to the other side. I'm trying to connect into my soul. I'm trying to connect into messages for myself or the person I'm sitting with, and I just don't need you right now. You guys have heard me say this a lot on the podcast, but your ego is really important when you want things, like material things in this world. It's also there for other reasons. It can help protect us when we need, just like have a gut feeling that we need to be more watchful, and that's also, of course, always fine. But when you're connecting to the other side, you're kind of playing a game between your right brain and your left brain. You're having your rational side of yourself communicate with something that is more imaginative, and you're trying to not convince the rational side of yourself that it's true, but you're trying to have the two sides talk, that your imagination is just as rational as anything else. So when you get those two sides of your brain to talk, you're able to connect in more. You're able to trust that your imagination is the other side coming in, giving you the messages that you need to see, hear, and know today, or for your sitter. If anyone has any questions on that, feel free to just ask. I can elaborate. But that is the gist of it. Anybody and everybody can do exactly what it is that I'm doing. I had a friend recently tell me that I say that because it's something that comes easily to me, as though the things that tend to come easily to all of us are gifts that we have that we just assume other people can do. And I understand what they're saying, but I also want you to know that there's just so many different ways to connect. So this is just my way. And yes, it is for sure a gift that I have. I have worked hard, in like the most delicious way, on opening these doors even more, because it's something that like I want, that I know that I'm meant to do in this lifetime. I don't think everybody has to connect in. I truly don't believe that it is meant for everybody. I think some people are living out their life's purpose without connecting in any way. They might just kind of naturally come in that way and not know it, or not call it that. I'm going to call it that because that's kind of where my beliefs lie. It's something I'm supposed to do. And if you're at all interested, it's something you can do too. And this is just a starting point. You can borrow any of this from me and watch it evolve for yourself, because you're likely able to do it in a slightly different way than I'm doing it. And I hope that that sounds helpful. Let's see. There's a few other things that we can go through. You guys have heard me say this on the podcast to a few different people that I've given readings to, but a question that I get quite often is either about relationships or career. This practice you can do with either. You might have to kind of play with it to tweak it. I'm going to do it as though we're doing it for relationships. And then maybe I'll try to touch in on like how you tweak it for a career. But I'll get this question like, hey, where's my person? Like, where is my soulmate? I was about to say twin flame. I have a funny thought on twin flames. If I forget to say it, will you remind me, Lindsay? Okay. I'll get into that in a little bit. But a lot of people are like, where's my soulmate? Or more importantly, like, where's my partner that I want to live life with? So what I'll have people do is something that you guys have heard a million times before, to make a list. So you're going to make a list of all of the things that you want to see in a partner, that and you're going to try to make it as elaborate and unique as you can. If you don't have time for that, screw that part and make it as short as you want. Sometimes it's helpful if there's at least a few things on there that feel like they're just for you. So you can put like tall, dark, and handsome on there, comes from a big family, loves to cook, loves to go dancing. Let's see. There's, just a million options. Is financially stable. That's one that I suggest often because money is a hard topic for a lot of people, and it's important to put at least one on there that is hard to talk about with other people. And you'll see why in a second. But here is where it gets different, because you could make that list all day long and then just sit and wait for that person to come. You might be sitting and waiting for quite some time because you haven't taken any action on it. So here's where the action comes in. And when we create movement in our life, which is when we make choices in our life, we are playing with the energy of the universe and we are calling it even closer to ourselves. So when you go through that list, you're going to go through it a few different times. And the first time you go through it, you are going to cross off all the things that you already are. So if you get to cross off likes to dance or comes from a big family, perfect and great. The point of crossing those off is that you are already drawing that energy towards you. So it's not like you're crossing it off, asking for it not to come your way. It's that you're already doing it. It is already coming towards you. I'm going to take back that little part where I said cross off the comes from a big family. I mean that more as like an energy thing. I'll get into that in a second. But if you crossed off loves to dance, you are already pulling in someone towards you that loves to dance or complements it quite well. So maybe they don't love to dance, but they love to write music. And so then they're there writing and playing the music and you're getting to dance, just as a really simple, beautiful example. The next thing that you're going to do is you are going to circle anything that you are not. So if you put loves, this is always my personal example, but if you put loves to cook on there and you put it on there because you don't love to cook, and how nice would that be to be in a relationship with someone who just loves it and takes care of it for you? It's a great thing to put on your list, but you're going to circle it, and anything that you have circled, you are going to start working on for yourself. So even if you circled is financially stable, and that's something that you would like to see in somebody else because you struggle with that, you're going to start working on that for yourself too. Now, the point of that one isn't to be so independent and say, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to do it so that I don't need anybody else. The point is to trust yourself that you want a relationship to come in, and that when you are working on those things for yourself, you are now drawing that energy towards you as well. So my personal example loves to cook. When I start cooking a little bit for myself and I'm in like a fully happy relationship that has its challenges, of course, like any natural relationship, but so this can work in a relationship too, is my point with saying that. But when I start to cook for myself, or when I give myself even the treat of ordering in, because the point for me is to just have like the finished product in front of me. But when I allow myself to enjoy cooking, or I allow myself to order in and enjoy the finished product, I am calling in energy from my partner or from other people in general that now complement that in some way. So I will either notice my husband starting to cook more, these meals that like we all like to eat. Great, wonderful. Or I'll have a friend oddly drop off a meal. Thank you, Caroline, who dropped off lasagna the other day. Out of nowhere. And these people that like truly love to cook and just love to share that gift with other people. So I'm just as responsible for calling that in as I am for the other things in my life, right? So when I start to do some of those things for myself out of joy, like out of the time that I have to do it, maybe it takes a little bit of work to get there, right? I'm like, okay, you know what? Like I do want to cook tonight because I'm tired of eating out. I'm tired of ordering out. Isn't in the budget tonight. And I'm going to do this for myself, because sometimes when I do something for myself, it just feels good. And I've got kids and a partner as well. So them, of course, are included in that. I'm playing with that energy and it comes back to me tenfold. So that's just a way to start playing with it. Now, the financially stable thing is an important one, and I'm just mentioning it as one of the examples that is occasionally uncomfortable to talk about. For us humans, sometimes money and finances are a hard thing to talk about, right? So when we're calling in someone or we have something on our list that's like that, when we work on that for ourselves, we will really notice the energy changing. Money is a form of energy. So that is a great one to start working on, especially if it's on your list, because we haven't quite honed it in yet. And again, the point isn't to like do it, love it, hone it in, be perfect at it. Like I'm never going to be the perfect cook. I'm never going to actually love cooking or be a kitchen person like some of my family and friends. But when we work on some of those things, we get to hone it in for ourselves. And then it tends to come in a partner that complements it quite well or has an understanding around it that we haven't thought of before. So I hope that sounds helpful. There's also going to be some things on your list. This kind of goes back to the big family example that I gave. You're going to have things on your list like tall, dark, and handsome, comes from a big family, is funny. Those are things that maybe we can't change. Like I would call them not mutable, but what's going to happen is you are going to say, great, that or different and better for some reason that I can't quite imagine right now. So when the person that's not tall, dark, and handsome comes your way, but they meet like all of these other things that are on your list, or you feel as though they complement these other things on your list, we're going to be open enough to engaging with them, right? Because it might not be the exact thing, but they might just have the energy of tall, dark, and handsome, or they might have the energy of coming from a really big family. They might not be funny in the way that you thought they were going to be funny, but they might be humorous to you and just you. Those are just examples. You guys can play with that as much as you want, and I hope that it sounds helpful. The ways to switch that to career is, of course, make your career list and then just kind of go through it in the same way. If anyone wants an elaborate career example, reach out and I'll do another one on the podcast. Oh, the twin flames. Lindsay just reminded me that I was about to say something about twin flames. Okay, so I have... it's more of a theory about soulmates and twin flames. And I think I've said this on the podcast before, but we find soulmates in a multitude of ways. They can be friends, they can be family members, they can be the partner that we choose to live life with, they can be the partner after the partner. So there's so many different ways to think about that. I don't think that we necessarily have this one romantic soulmate. Patrick's going to be questioning this episode. Like, what the fuck? That's not what I mean. I'm going to gather my words real quick. I don't think soulmates come in just a romantic form. That's exactly what I meant. I think that we have these people that come in and out of our lives, and sometimes our soulmates aren't there for forever. And then we get a soulmate in a different way at a different time. So when we're specifically in relationships looking for our soulmate, I think that that's like beautiful and fine. The way to call that in as well is to like look at the soulmates that you've already curated in your life. You likely have a best friend, even if they're not in your life right now. If it's like a best friend from childhood that you've lost touch with, that's fine too, but they were your soulmate at that time. So when we become more, and I know this is a very popular word in this world, grateful. When we become more grateful for them, it is just admitting that that energy exists and that it lights us up a little bit. And we tend to kind of notice that in other ways. And then that romantic soulmate will come back around. This is my thought on twin flames. I think I'm just a little bit baffled by it. It seems so strict to me, like that we would have this one person in life that's our twin flame, and should they leave us, we'll be so devastated, or we'll be so, or that like we're so entwined with them on a soul level that like we have to be together in order for life to be the thing that it's meant to be. I think it takes so much power away from us. And I'm just being honest with that, with how I think about it. I'm sure there's people that have a better perspective around that than I do. And you're welcome to tell me about it. Would love to hear it. But my point around that is, sure, we could have like this twin flame or this essence of a twin flame. I do have like a belief that my partner and I were like meant to meet and have the kids that we have, and there's something to it. And you guys are going to hear me fumble over my words a little bit, but there's also something to twin flame that makes me maybe like a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't want someone who thought 100% that they had met their twin flame, but then the relationship didn't work out, that they like have to get back together with that person in order for life to work out. I would rather you guys know that the power is truly within yourselves, and that there's so much more guidance that's coming from within, a little bit like you're your own twin flame. And I'm only saying all of that in that way because I feel like the way people talk about twin flames is so much more intense than soulmate, partner, husband, wife, whatever you want to call it. So just to widen the perspective in a different way, you don't have to, there might not be like a twin flame. You might be your own twin flame. And I'd say that just to be helpful. And I hope some people can hear that and be like, oh, all right, I'll be my own twin flame. Thank you very much. Oh, I used to say this on the podcast and I kind of wanted to address it. I used to say, welcome back to House Guest. I'm Hailey Low-Fennell, a psychic and trance medium. And I had this conversation with Lindsay a while ago. I was like, I think I'm going to take the trance part out. I think I'm going to stop saying that. And it might still be on my website, but maybe not anymore. It was, I got a lot of questions about it, and it's a funny thing to talk about, but I'm going to try my best right now. Trance is like a part of mediumship. Some mediums do it and some don't. I naturally just fall into it. You guys will see me close my eyes a lot. That's me going into a very light trance. When people go into a deeper trance, sometimes they don't even talk. Like you'll see a medium close their eyes, and all they're doing is embodying spirit, and they are either performing some sort of healing for who they are with, or occasionally they will talk and there's some sort of message in there for the people that they're around. By all means, I do that. I'm maybe like when it comes down to mediumship, the mediumship part of psychic medium, that's what I'm most interested in, is like literally feeling and embodying spirit. And to some extent, even in just like a regular reading, I just naturally do it. The way people talk about trance, if you were to look it up, it's as though I'm doing it without knowing I'm doing it, which is how I know I'm doing it. It just feels like that to me. Like there's something else kind of in my awareness that takes over. And a lot of mediums are probably doing it naturally as well, without maybe even calling it that. And then there's kind of different levels of trance. So I used to say that by all means, I think it's still a part of what I'm doing, but I think it was getting like a little confusing in the kind of talk of it, because I don't think it's actually important that it's trance or psychic or mediumship or any of that. I think it's just important that people are getting the messages that they need to see, hear, and know today. I've said this on the podcast before, but I think it's been a while. Psychic in general, if you were to really break it down, would be more like my soul's talking with your soul, and we're just allowing the things to come up that you need to see, hear, and know today. I'm not necessarily connecting in with anyone who has passed away that you know from life. Though guides, yes, I'm connecting in with guides in like a true psychic, just soul to soul reading. In a mediumistic reading, I'm connecting with people who have passed away. Hopefully it's people that you know from this lifetime. I only say that part because then it's easier to hear the messages. It's easier for you to be like, yes, I know who that person is. Occasionally we'll get like a great ancestor in there. That's still mediumship technically. Guides can kind of be in either one of those for me. I could say this is a psychic reading and a guide's coming through. This is a mediumistic reading and a guide's coming through. And then there's trance. You can't really do trance without the mediumship part, I don't think. I don't know. Someone could argue with me on that. But trance could be people on the other side that are coming through. The reason I just was like, maybe it could be something else, is because it could also just be like a guide. There's a lot of psychic mediums that have this one guide that comes in and it's their guide. And they'll usually have a name for that spirit or soul coming in. And they're just connecting in with that one guide, and then they're performing trance. And then there's a lot of mediums where different people are kind of coming in. You might even see like different kind of facial shapes. Some people even close their eyes, and occasionally some people will say you can see spirit eyes over the medium's eyes. And trance mediums tend to take on not necessarily personalities, so sometimes, but will tend to take on like body movements that are somewhat like the people that they're connecting in with, so that the people they're sitting with can pick up on their own who is there. So you guys will see me do that a lot, and very naturally in readings, I'm talking with my hands, or I start to sit how somebody would sit in life. And I am somewhat aware I'm doing it because I'm not in full trance, but then sometimes I'm not aware that I'm doing it. Like I'll hold up a number with my hands, and it's like on me to notice it and then interpret it all of a sudden. That's maybe my favorite way of doing trance. I like being somewhat aware so that I can use my voice and give you guys actual messages, and then it's a lot less you guys having to interpret what it is that I'm doing, and more of a collaborative experience. So I hope that kind of clears up the trance thing. Maybe I'll bring it back into the podcast and start saying it again. I did want to talk about this thing that I call cascading. I got that word from Theater 99. I took an improv class when I first moved to Charleston 12 years ago, a little over 12 years ago, where it's in, and Lindsay, you're going to maybe have to remind me of this because you do like theater stuff more than I do. I haven't done it since then, to be clear. All right, Lindsay just said it's usually when they ask the audience for a word, and then all of the improv artists will kind of, in their own mind, cascade to what that word means to them, and then they'll jump on stage and start the scene. So I kind of mean it in a very similar way when I'm talking about signs and symbols, is you'll have someone that passed away, and you're going to be wondering like, well, what's their sign symbol from the other side, if they didn't already give it to you. I've had some of the coolest people sit with me that said, oh, well, my grandmother said she was going to be this, and then she passed away and she is it. I'm like, it's genius. I need to write down like what I'm going to be. I have too many ideas on it. I'm gonna find something helpful this is helpful. I'm about to say something helpful. That's going to narrow it down. So you're going to be wondering like what your people and your guides, you can like throw your guides into this game as well. You're going to be wondering what they are. So just for example, you're going to have like a grandmother on the other side, and you're going to be like, Grandma, like, what are you? I want to see you. I miss you. I want to feel your guidance from the other side. Can you show me something physical, a sign or a symbol that you are? And you're going to think of something, and then you are going to immediately doubt it, because we are humans and that's what we do. But just go with the first thing you thought of, which might be something along the lines of butterfly. So you're going to be thinking of a butterfly, and then you're like, great, Grandma. Okay, I'll accept that you're a butterfly. But can you make it more specific? And so you're kind of starting to cascade things, right? And so you're like, okay, her favorite color was purple. She's going to be purple butterfly. And then you're going to see a purple butterfly, because that's a little bit more rare. Maybe you're going to have a little bit more trust around it. Like, oh, well, that is kind of cool that I just saw a purple butterfly within 2 days of asking my grandmother to show me purple butterfly. At some point, you might see so many of that symbol. Cardinal is an easy example to put in there, but you might see so many of that you are going to start to not trust it again. So then you're just going to have to cascade even further. So you're going to have to take purple butterfly and say, well, why did I think of that in the first place? Oh, that's because she used to always wear these purple shoes. Like, she loved these purple shoes. So then that is a sign symbol, purple shoes. And if you're doubting that, you could take it even further. Ask her for a memory that comes along with it. Oh, I remember that she was wearing these purple shoes on my wedding day, and she slipped and was okay, but was like laughing and laughing and laughing, and this song was playing. And then that song all of a sudden becomes some sort of like a sign symbol for when she's coming in. And now all of a sudden you have like a few things. You've got purple butterfly. Oh, I think of grandma when I see that. You've got purple shoes. Oh, I really think of grandma whenever I see someone like walking around in these like crazy purple shoes. And then you've got that song playing, and now you're really thinking of her plus a memory of her. And now you're starting to just be aware that she's coming in, and then you're going to be brave enough to ask her a question in that moment. And she might not answer it right away, but then you're going to go about your day, and you might even get an answer about something else that you've had problems with. And then you're going to realize that, oh, grandma doesn't come in for these questions all the time. Of course she can answer them from where she is, but I noticed that she's actually coming in for these questions over here. She just helped me solve this thing over here. That makes sense because grandma used to love X, Y, and Z. I know that that's like a lot to sift through, but it's just being more fun and light and playful with how signs and symbols are coming in, because it's just another way to start to feel them nearby. I love signs and symbols. I think that they are such a powerful way to start to see and feel and know our loved ones on the other side. But when they start to give us stories and memories that are good, common, neutral, then we get to get the messages that are good, common, neutral. Then we get to feel them nearby. And when we feel them nearby, we are connected in a whole other way than just the sign and symbol. So I hope that you guys find that helpful. There's plenty of other ways to play that cascade game. I've said it a few times on the podcast. The example I usually give is a red cardinal that I always use for my grandfather, and it eventually cascades to a man whistling "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," which was a part of the reminder that I'd completely forgotten that my grandfather was in the minor leagues growing up, which is kind of a big deal, and like a memory that I'd completely forgotten about that he helped remind me of. So now whenever I think of baseball, or whenever I hear someone whistling that tune, I mean, I'm just like, I get it. You're there on the other side. I only have to hear that once every 5-10 years, and I can just trust that you're there. Where sometimes the cardinal, even if I see that every single day, I'm like, yeah, but can you like really show me? So if you find yourself being in that pool for a little bit, keep the cardinal, keep the purple butterfly, but they'll do that with you. They know that you're starting to doubt it, so they'll help you get to something more specific, but they're not just going to show it to you. You have to put the work into it as well. A little bit half and half there. Let's see. I'm going to see if there's anything else. I think there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. Oh, well, yeah. Okay, fine. I wrote down something kind of funny. I have noticed I forget my readings. Occasionally I'll remember something at some point, or especially if I've given you a reading before and then you come back. If it starts to sound familiar to me, it's like, ooh, they're bringing up this topic that we've talked about before, but they want to add in this like new information. And so that's always fun. That's kind of one of the times that I'll start to remember a previous reading. But something that's been happening lately is I've remembered strangers' readings while giving readings to like other strangers. And it's because there's like some sort of part of this previous reading that is very adamant to say in current readings. So if you ever find yourself doing that, where it's like, gosh, I'm reminded of this thing and it does not seem related to the question that I just asked my loved ones, just give yourself a little bit of space and be like, oh, well, how did that person solve that? Is that applicable over here? Or what is it that they just showed me this random thing? You might be surprised. It just might be like pulled into this other area of life that you've been wondering about. I say all of that because I've noticed in readings as well that I very often say, does that make sense? And all of a sudden it's like, I can't help but hear it all the time. And it's probably a bad idea to point it out to you guys, because now everyone's going to be like, she does say that all the time. But I do. Does that make sense? And I was wondering, like, why is it that I say that? Like, why am I asking for that? Am I asking that for myself? To make sure that it's making sense. But I think what it comes down to is what I'm asking you guys is, Does it make sense? Because I'm trying to make sure that you feel the connection as much as I do so that the conversation can then move on to the next thing or to like an even deeper thing. Because if it's not making sense, then sometimes it's too lost in the moment for me to move on. And I hope that makes sense. And then occasionally you'll also hear me say something along the lines of like someone will say, maybe, or no, or that doesn't make sense. And I have gotten a lot more brave in my mediumship to be like, oh yeah, wait, I don't care. Like, not that I don't care about you guys, but it's like, shoot, like I'll have this feeling in my body all of a sudden of, oh, it's okay that this part doesn't make sense because it's going to later. And I can't tell you guys how many people I tell, hey, just write this down. Just remember that I said it. That later will come back and be like, yep, got it. So if that's coming up for you guys, if you are asking that same question as me to your sitter, I think it's a great question because there's like some sort of like pause or space that sentence is creating within the reading, where either it's like reverberated back to me as a yes, and it's like, great, now we get to keep going. Or it comes back to me as like a no or a maybe, and then I get to change direction and leave it with my sitter for it to make sense at the right time in a more powerful way than I could possibly make it make sense in the moment. So I hope that all sounds helpful. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me for Psychic Mediumship 101. Thank you, Lindsay, for doing episode 100 with me. That was for sure my favorite episode so far. And you guys keep listening. There's going to be more opportunities on the podcast for research readings with College of Charleston. Those are going to be some of the only readings that you'll hear on the podcast for a while. I don't know. This is like a ever evolving thing. But from here on out, you're going to hear a lot more conversations as well with people from the local community, outside as well. If you're interested in any of those opportunities, please feel free to reach out. We're specifically looking for people who either I've given readings to before that are going to be coming back on soon, or people who have made really big changes in their life and want to talk about spirituality and how that played a part. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.